This channel is for educational purposes only. Make sure you do your own due diligence before making any investments. And there is inherent risk in trading, so it's speculative. Just make sure you keep that in mind. I am going to be on stockcharts.com in the afternoon, your daily 5. So I'll be providing some stock picks again. So make sure you tune in. Hi, this is Joe Rabil with Invest Like a Pro. We are going to be making some changes to our website in the coming months, and so just be aware of that and be on the lookout, because we want to be able to generate some screens that provide idea generation, and also really help with not only the setups but also the triggers and where they're going to be, and also with some portfolio management aspects as well. So stay tuned for that, and I would recommend you hitting the subscribe button if you want to get this information or details on it when it starts to come out. I'm going to talk about ADX today, and I want to focus on when I use ADX in multiple time frames, there are times when I'm interested in low ADX patterns, and there's times when I'm looking at really strong or high ADX patterns, and you have to handle them differently. What I'm going to show today is how you might have a strong ADX on a really upper time frame, a low ADX on another time frame, and then on a trigger time frame, you're looking for a specific thing to take place. So let me go into the example today. I hope this makes sense, but just keep asking questions. You guys have been asking some pretty good questions, even through email. So, feel free to keep reaching out if you have any more or you want any more detail. Let's go ahead and look at, this is RIOT, Riot Blockchain. And there have been some pretty substantial moves that have taken place. Obviously, if you look at Bitcoin and some of these others, but I wanted to just look at this because I thought it was a really good example of how ADX can be a really powerful tool to help you zero in on how to buy something with a lot of confidence, and also when you want to get into something maybe right before a breakout. And so I'm going to show you how to use the lower time frame to get you in right prior to a kind of a key level being taken out. Let's start with the monthly though. And this is if you look at this going back, this is a pretty squished pattern. It doesn't really give you a lot of insight, but if we keep scrolling in and zooming in, look at what happened here. We had a really strong move after we bottomed in March of 2020, and we made a strong move, and we crossed above the 18-month line, and we got all the way up to the 40-month moving average. And then we had a pullback for about a month or two. And notice what happened on this time frame. We had the 18 months starting to hold and starting to tick and cup around. And, MACD was holding as well. But look at what ADX was doing through this period. So we had this monster move in 2017 that peaked at the end of 2017. And then we started this long, extended correction, decline, whatever you want to call it. But ADX went from being at a really, really high level to working its way back down, but it never crossed back below the 25 level. So I kind of view this, believe it or not, even though there's such a long time span in here, I still view this very bullishly, because you had such a powerful reading that even through this long decline and corrective wave, you really did not, the green never broke down below 25. It never got below the red DI. Sellers never could get anything going really on a bigger picture. So I view that as a really good starting point. If we go to the weekly chart, notice how, in fact, let me zero in so you can see a little bit better. Notice how we went through this low ADX period, and then we got the strong move to the upside. And again, we get this monster reading up around 55, 60 to the upside. And then it corrected back down to the 18 and 40, which were then rising. And again, if you notice in this situation, the ADX was falling during the pullback, but it never got below 25. Green never dropped down below 25, and they never crisscrossed. This is a real power trend. These are the types of stocks, when you look at the monthly, weekly of this type of pattern, these are truly what I would consider to be powerful trends, good stocks to focus your energy on. If we go and look at what the daily was doing, so this is the pullback. Let's just look at all four. So during the pullback here on a weekly chart, that was this phase here on the daily chart, and it gave our opposing trend trigger because you had a 18 above the 40, both lines rising, strong ADX, and then you had the 18 below the 40 on the lower time frame. Again, comes from my book, Invest Like a Pro. I give a specific pattern, obviously, that, and I've talked about this in many videos, so go back and look at some of them. But so you had the trigger as this was crossing back above the 40. But let's say you weren't watching this back then. Maybe it just wasn't meeting one of your screens or whatever. But if you notice, so again, we got a pretty good reading on the ADX on this move here. It rallied up, got up to approximately 36, 37, something like that before it started to pull back. And then we had a low ADX condition. Now keep in mind, while ADX was low on the daily chart, it was strong on the weekly chart and it was strong on the monthly. Okay? So we've got this situation where we've got the higher time frame showing extreme strength because even during a correction, they're not pulling back below 25. And then on a daily chart, you get this low ADX reading pulling back to in the mid-teens. So at this point, we know this is a stock on a bigger picture pattern that is looking very attractive, and we want a sign of strength. The problem with using the daily in this situation is we basically would need to wait for a break above, at the earliest, it would be about 420. And really, for more confirmation, it would probably be more like 450, something like that. So if we can go down and zero in on the hourly, I'm going to go back in time and show you. So this was during that pullback, and then we went through, so we had a pullback phase here, and then I'm going to go bar by bar just to show you how this looked. So the ADX got low, red you had green up and then red up, and you really were still in this consolidation phase. And then we started to see some strength from green DI starting to show up as price started to respect the 18. And so the main factor that I'm looking at right now is because we have low ADX on the daily chart, right? This low ADX is at a low reading right now. And so I don't want to jump the gun and buy something on the hourly until I'm starting to see improving ADX strength on this lower time frame. So that means I want to see ADX crossing above 25. And once that happens, if price is taking out any kind of a key level, and right now, if I'm looking at this, I would consider this area here right around $4, just under $4, to be very important. So I'm looking for the combination on a lower time frame that says ADX is crossing above 25 and price is getting through a key level. But it's not necessarily getting above the key level on the daily chart. Because remember, that was up around 420, 450, something like that. So if we're waiting for that, now we keep scrolling forward. And if you notice, now we get an ADX reading that crosses above 25. It came the day after this strong move here to the upside. And what I would do, because price had already made a pretty decent move in a short period of time, is just look for the next higher low to develop. And if you notice, you had the breakout and it pulled back, kind of checked back to support. And then we got what I would consider to be the true trigger here, crossing back above $4, making a little higher low. And if you notice, You had the green DI crossing above and holding, and 25 ADX crossing above 25. That's the blue line. So this is the combination, what I'm looking for on a short time frame to get me in prior to the breakout on a higher time frame. I would call this doing kind of like a probe trade, because you really don't have a breakout on all the time frames. Again, you still have some resistance up at 420, up at 450, something like that. So it's a little bit different. But if you like the higher time frames, and that's the key to this whole situation, the higher time frame monthly and the higher time frame weekly were both giving you signs that there was more upside continuation coming, at least that it was likely. So once we get the daily going through the consolidation phase and getting that low ADX pattern, then we can go to the hourly and look for the trigger when we start to see strength. And again, if you followed that, you had a really powerful follow through not long afterward. So again, there's a lot of moving parts in this video, but the key is making sure the higher time frames, number one, aren't showing resistance, but are also showing real extreme strength on an ADX basis, both monthly and weekly. And again, you've got your moving averages moving in the right direction, crossing above the 18-month and having the 18 and the 40 rising for the first time in quite a while. And so we get our pullback, and that's the setup using the daily and the hourly. If you have any questions, please post them and hit that like button, and we'll talk to you soon.